Oh boy.
Welcome to Devoted to a Soldier. Tonight, the theme is, geez, I don't even remember what the theme is. It's about your physical body, your mind, your spirit, how it's all interconnected between service, during service, between service, and after service. And I have two really cool guys here that know their junk. Bryan and Lawrence, thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
And Bryan is in sunny Arizona, my favorite place. And my number 2 favorite place is Nashville. I didn't tell you that, Lawrence. So I have like I'm living through both of you right now. Right now, I'm just in heaven. Shout out to Arizona and to Nashville and all my peeps there. But we're going to get right into it. But before we get right in, digging in, tell the world a little bit about who you are, your expertise. Yeah, right there. Bryan, you go first because you are right next to me.
Thank you, Danny. My name's Bryan Hoddle. I am currently living in Chandler, Arizona. Used to live in the state of Washington. Retired from teaching after 34 years, moved here 5 years ago. Coached and taught, like I said, for 34 years. Began to work with athletes with disabilities back in 1995, which led me to being the head Paralympic coach for the United States in track and field over in Athens in 2004, which then led to me beginning to work with soldiers returning from combat, both men and women, at Walter Reed in Alabama and throughout the country. And so here I am today, here to meet you again and Lawrence for the first time.
Yeah. Bryan has a pretty cool, lengthy story. He's enjoying retirement, if whatever retirement looks like. I don't think you'll ever actually really retire. You always have something up your sleeve, but that is Bryan. Lawrence, how about you? What is the skinny on Lawrence Miller?
Well, that's pretty hard to follow up. I am not in retirement. I'm just getting started, but I just recently moved from Detroit, Michigan to Nashville, Tennessee. I work in the sport of ice hockey on an international stage. I worked with players from, I think, around 17 different federations from around the world. I got started in the sport of ice hockey around the age of 3 and played at a pretty high level. And that's where I am at now as a mentor, coach, and a scout, and ranging from about 14, 15, all the way up to top leagues around the world.
And how do you know, just because I'm curious, I never asked you, how did you and Andrew Farr connect?
So that connection happened about a month ago when I came down to Nashville, Tennessee to kind of scope out the area and see, because Detroit, Michigan is a hub for youth hockey, tons of development, tons of teams. Mm-hmm. So what I was trying to do is trying to open as many doors as I could and see what opportunities are out there throughout the continental U.S. as we have programs around the world. And Nashville, Tennessee was very they opened arms. Like, people are all on board. They love hockey here. It's a very fresh new hockey community. It's not a traditional hockey market like where the original Six were, but it's been very, very welcoming. Amazing people down here, and we're in the process of building something special down here. So very excited. That's
cool. Everybody knows Andrew. Awesome. He's like, so I never asked him. I'm like, I gotta find out where that connection came from. But all right. So the first thing I would know is, like, how do you see in each of your kind of fields and professions and personal lives and whatnot, how do you see the discipline of the training that soldiers receive translate into the aspects after, like that connection?
Go ahead, Lawrence.
The biggest thing I see is it's not the discipline is there, but at the professional level, for instance, at the National Hockey League level or American Hockey League level, what I see is the focus. It's almost, this is their skill set, this is their job, this is what they are counted on to do. So it's from preparation, from eating to dieting, certain ways, and tweaking your body as you get older and understanding how to listen to your body. But it's very different, I would say. as well.
I see. Bryan.
And I think, Danny, if you were referring to soldiers, when they're in their physical training and PT and all of that, then they return to be reintegrated into society. Oftentimes they won't resume the fitness, or sometimes they'll be injured and lose their joint range of motion. And so we need to identify those things in order to get them into a skill, like sled hockey as an example, which is one of the fastest growing Paralympic sports in the world. Extremely exciting, and we have won several gold medals in sled hockey. We have to be able to identify maybe some of their injuries or things that they're dealing with coming out of combat to get them into some type of physical activity so that we can address physical, the mental, and the spiritual component of their growth back into society.
And that questions it. How do you do that? Have you found that reintegration, because their bodies are so different? You know when you were trained so long in something, whether you're an athlete and you get injured and you end up going back, or you are a soldier and you get injured and now you're trying to reintegrate back into, a physical activity or something that you love. How do you get that mental, that mental block or that frustration? How do you work through that?
Well, if someone's sick and they go to the doctor will run tests on them to find out what's wrong with them. And it's the same thing with someone coming out of a combat situation. If they're hurt, or let's say they're not physically hurt, then we need to find out what their strengths and weaknesses are before we can set up a plan. We can't just throw them out. I mean, we'd love to send everybody to Lawrence, I'm sure, and get them playing in hockey, maybe someday play at a professional. Maybe they don't have the skill set for that, but maybe they can play sled hockey, or they can play sitting volleyball, or whatever the case may be that fits into a sport that might help them out.
Lawrence, I want to know your opinion, because I came up from professional athletes. Like, I was a professional ballerina. My brother was a gymnast, lived at the Olympic Training Center. So that whole mindset, actually, my brother was a hockey player. So what do you see? What do you do to break those, the blocks?
So the biggest thing that I see within it is you have to find the right team to support yourself, or the right facility. For example, I train out of a training facility, or I did when I was in Metro Detroit, called 2SB Sports Performance. It's from programming. So basically you run through an assessment and you get an actual coach that connects with you on a personal level and understands and communicates what your injuries are from a physical standpoint. And then, for instance, like on a mental standpoint. So for instance, for myself, when I train at the facility, I always train in a hooded black sweatshirt and black sweatpants. But for me, from a mental side, it was, I always had a hood on. But for my programming in the training facility, Joe, it's specific towards me. It's not like a blanket training program.
Definitely.
He actually understands. And for instance, I go see a chiropractor, Dr. Joel, he understands that you cannot I'm not going to fit, I'm going to fix you. Well, there's a lot of things to fix on a certain particular person, athlete, soldier. Well, these doctors are understanding, no, I'm not going to fix everything on you. We can work on one thing at a time. And then I can communicate to the programmer then put together the correct program for you in a step-by-step process. And it's not overwhelming. It's not like a quick fix or instant gratification, which a lot of people in the United States want, but it's understanding it's step-by-step, if that makes sense.
Oh, it does. And I feel like that's right up Bryan's league, because Bryan, you were like the hands-on, you weren't the trainer, but that's how I can easily make it what you do into, simplistic terms. And Lawrence, I feel like you're the programmer. You're the fixer, you're the program. When you integrate those two ways, then you have the complete balance of the individual to get them to where they need to be. Does that make sense? I'm just kind of reiterating. It makes perfect sense in my brain that you see the person as the individual, and you need all those aspects, the parts that Bryan can give, fixing the actual body, doing the training, having the mental part of it, of Lawrence, because what's going to unblock, some people are not going to unblock other people's. Do you have certain stories that you saw that was a big challenge, either for yourself or somebody else, that somebody can walk away and say like, wow, that's me, and that worked for that person. Maybe I can try that.
Well, this is a question I always ask at clinics. How many of you think that mental is a huge component to an athletic success? And so I'll say, raise your hand if it's 35, raise your hand if it's 45, raise your hand if it's 50. And I'll say, well, how come you're spending 0 on it then? And oftentimes we'll go spend 100% of the time on the physical, but understand the mental component to most any physical activity or survival in society alone is a large part mental. Why are we spending 0% of the time on it? Maybe we should spend more time on it.
Is that a big thing in what you do, Lawrence? Is that mental piece of it?
I think it's more environment. What I deal with, especially in the sport of ice hockey, is a lot of, you have to have an inviting environment, whether it's off ice or on ice. It's, for instance, for myself, like being on the ice is therapeutic for me. My brain shuts off, no electronics, no phone. It's where like I can slow down, just smell the cold air and just relax and enjoy being on the ice. And then once you get off the ice, it's, back to, things like that. And then from an off ice training facility for myself and others that I've been with, it's providing that environment where it's almost where you're kind of vulnerable, but you're not looked at as broken. You're not looked at anything. It's just, I'm there to put in work to get better and to feel better.
Yeah. It's finding what works for you, right? Like ice hockey's your jam, running might be somebody else's. Don't think that you need to go into maybe what you did before or what everybody else is. It's finding that environment that stimulates you as an individual. So yeah, totally. But how did you guys get into what you do? Like, how did that fall in? I know, like, you were a teacher and one thing led to another, and you were, in ice since you were 3 years old. But was there a turning point in your life where something just connected or maybe you just looked back and you were like, I don't know how I got here, and I'm pretty dang like wowed myself how it happened.
Well, I think my first trip to Walter Reed was a real eye opener because I'm gonna go in there and do a running clinic, and I'm really excited. I got my Paralympic diamond ring on, my Paralympic watch, my uniform. I'm going to go in there and dazzle these guys. And I walk into this room, and the room was probably, 40 by 50. And these soldiers are missing limbs, shrapnel wounds, sitting in wheelchairs. And I just went to the restroom and I just cried. God, why am I here? And I realized right then I was put in that position not to teach people how to run, but to give them hope. And so I think I spent an hour and a half the first trip at Walter Reed just talking about life in general, the Paralympics, overcoming obstacles. And I've made some great friends. I think I made 4 trips there, 18 back to Alabama, and then several trips to various athletes around the country, and then back up in Washington. And I always say, you learn, if you really listen, you learn a lot from the people you're working with, whether it be an athlete, a soldier, or a student. And people don't care how much you know. They want to know how much you care.
Yeah. How about you, Lawrence? Where's that moment?
So mine is actually in Moscow, Russia. So my journey took me all the way to Moscow. I had a great opportunity. My mentor allowed me and opened that door for me. And I was actually sitting at a dinner table with players, guys from 8 different federations, countries, speaking 4 different languages. And they're like, they didn't understand why I was there. And being a disabled veteran playing ice hockey in Moscow, Russia, they're like, why? Like, nothing makes sense. Well, during that time, I was able to tell my story and what I was trying to accomplish and my purpose, and trying to break down doors and barriers for guys after me. And after sharing that story, they were just in awe that it wasn't about me. It wasn't about money. It was just about trying to break down that label of military veteran or disabled military veteran, to allow them opportunities that I never was able to physically do. But now that I have the platform that I have, now I can provide that for others to go and achieve. So Mine took me all the way across the ocean.
Yeah. Wow. Both of those are kind of those impactful, like, shoots, it takes you outside of who you are into something greater and bigger. So now you're like projecting forward. And I love that, right? Because it tells the story of how you don't know where life's gonna bring you, and you don't, where you think you might be and who you might be is something completely different than when you end up becoming and where you become. So are your goals the same from that moment you just shared with me? Are your goals the same, or have they twisted or shifted a little bit in your life?
Go ahead, Lawrence.
Mine have evolved. There is never a dull moment in my life. I love to be creative and try to. My purpose and identity is I love mentoring, guiding, and opening more doors. So that's why it brought me to Nashville, Tennessee, bringing our youth program here, but also opening the door to allow veterans who are either getting out of the academies or getting.
It's okay. You're back. Oh, no, you're muted. Yeah, I think you're back now.
Okay, sorry. So
That's okay.
It's brought me all the way to my current time, is where providing a group organization where veterans and can train alongside professional athletes, professional hockey players, as they try to go and sign a pro contract, along while mentoring and international ice hockey player development. So it's evolved, and that's what's brought us here now today.
That's so cool. When you allow yourself to evolve, it shows humility in my eyes, right? Because you're not looking to master anything. You're looking to master, move on, master, move on, master, move on. That's like the story of evolution. Bryan, how about you?
Well, I think I've been doing this for about 16 years, and every time I say, okay, it's probably time to move on, then somebody else gets placed in front of me to help. And so I think you said it earlier, I keep planning on maybe to retire or move on to something else, but I don't know if it's ever going to happen. And I think one of the things that I can do is refer people to people like Lawrence, because now I've met another vet who has a great skill, and it sounds like great awareness of what's going on, and maybe he's able to help the next Paralympian in sled hockey. Who knows?
Yeah.
So you always meet people, and they always give you new insights on things, and that's what it's really all about.
Isn't that the truth? And that just
absolutely.
Sorry, oh, go ahead. You guys are talking. I can't hear. And Bryan, that's why I'm trying to arm wrestle you into coming to the Scottsdale party on November 7th. I'm just going to throw that in online.
Thank you, Danny, for reminding
me. 1 mile, calling you out to the world to come to the 1 mile thing. Lawrence, if you're going to be in Scottsdale, you're welcome too. Also, but you're in Nashville. But if you're going to be in Scottsdale on November 7th. It's a great people. So what if at the very end here, as we're closing up, in a snapshot, how do you think your life's work has helped or can help or inspire people or change?
Well, I guess I go back to my first trip to Walter Reed, and these veterans are sitting there. Some are missing limbs, some are missing arms, some are in a wheelchair, and I'm throwing the old VCR tapes on the TV to say, hey, look at this. This guy, Tony Volpentest, has no hands and no feet, and he's running down the track almost as fast as able-bodied athletes. And you start showing people that, hey, they can overcome obstacles too. That, obstacles are put in front of us for different reasons. And they say there's 56 million people that have some form of disability. I mean, just from wearing glasses to more severe disabilities. And there's plenty of things that we can get involved with or help people get involved with that can make profound changes in their life and inspire them to go out and help other people. Be the next Lawrence Miller. Be the next Danny Rocco. Who knows?
Lawrence?
The biggest thing I would say is, if you're labeled, don't pay attention to it. If you're a veteran, active duty, disabled veteran, you know, if ice hockey is your sport, you want a chance to play professional hockey, you now have a place to go, somewhere to reach out to. That's the biggest thing. Like, obviously we're using ice hockey as our vessel, but if there's other connections or people that I can help, I would love to do that. I personally tried to do it. I wasn't able to do it myself, but now that I've retired from the game, I'm allowing that to open it up for others. And that's how you impact and lead the world. So don't pay attention to labels.
You don't have to be a world-class athlete to inspire someone. When you're walking through an airport and you see a vet or you see an active duty soldier, go up to him and talk to him. It means a tremendous amount to him when you do that and you show them the love that you have for our military.
You guys are two very cool dudes. I'm glad you guys just met, because I feel like that is a great connection. I'm glad you shared your knowledge and your heart and soul with the world, and people can like reach out and have another outlet, right? It's all about finding what works for you. And as I close, I always say, find your table. I'm Italian. I use food and drink. That's what I use, you know, to bring laughter and love and community to people. If you know me, that's it. So just find your jam and go with it. And thank you guys so much for being here, giving your expertise and your time and your professionalism to the world. And to everybody else, until next time, we will see you later. Take care.
Bye, Lawrence. Bye, Danny.
Bye, guys.
Yeah.
And